And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move. And when I say get it, I want all of y'all to go through. Hold it now. Boogie woogie.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Discover RPG, where we take your questions about RPGs and D&D, substitute them with our own, and do our damnedest despite all forces in the universe and our own psyches to stay on topic. I am Angela, this is Logan. There's a lot going on in our session plan right now.
Well, I suppose it really depends on what you define as a lot. You know,
A lot of question marks, Logan.
that's a lot. It is a lot of question marks, and that's what happens.
There's good reason
when I have to set up the session plan 5 minutes before the game or before the show.
This is a special improvisation episode of Discover
Yes,
RPG.
We're taking your questions and talking about them today,
And not substituting them.
We
with
won't
our
be
own.
substituting our own because we don't have any, because it's been a hectic week. Sorry.
How many episodes did we get through before we hit this breaking point? you think?
Depends on if
Like
you
a
count
lot.
last week or not. Because last week was kind of the same thing, but,
But
we had
a
wonderful.
session plan. Anyway, hi
So
guys.
please,
Hi,
tell
folks.
us what you want to talk about. Give us a link to a product. We'll take a look at it real quick or something. I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about?
Samurai is a good point. Scooby-Doo episode.
Scooby-Doo episode.
We have to solve.
Old Man Jenkins. It was
Yeah.
Old Man Jenkins every time.
Old Man Jenkins was a lich.
I'm like Data from that episode where he plays Sherlock Holmes. I just skip right to the end. Old Man Jenkins the Lich. Old Lich Jenkins.
Okay, so we have our first question from chat from Zach. How do you feel about the amazing combination of monk and cleric? Sick multi-class, right?
Well, from a roleplay perspective, I think it's great.
Personally, I think that multi-class could be kicked up a notch a little bit if you mix in werewolf.
Kicked up a notch?
Yeah, but if you mix a little werewolf into that, I think
That's
you got a
true,
really
yes.
good class there. I think it's great. Some of these jokes are just for the Countless Heroes class.
Yeah, just for Countless Heroes fans and fan. Just for Countless Hero fans.
He's a fan and a member.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had we're still kind of recovering from one event and recovering from prepping for another event.
So much has happened this week, and we can't talk about
Right?
any of it.
No, we could talk about some of it. Final Rights premiered yesterday.
Final Rights premiered. That was really good. Let's review our own shows.
Our own show.
There's a really exciting idea.
Yep.
Gee, I wonder how favorable they're going to be.
No, but just letting you guys know that Tiefling Tuesdays are going to be a thing. I'm just gonna let you guys have whatever's going on in chat there, you two.
Yeah, right? I just like, nope.
Should we give you a moment? Should we like pause the stream and give you guys some private time? Anyway, we had our Tuesday new premieres of our new streaming shows on Nerdsmith, which we are a member of, the network of Nerdsmith. Final Rights premiered.
We're not just a client, we're also the owner. Wait, no, we're not just the owner, we're also a client. Wait, when?
I'm not just a spokesperson, I'm also a member.
When was that? Today?
Just now. It's fine. Anyway, it's fine. So the Final Rights are all Tiefling D&D campaign, run by the multi-talented Mr. Jason Catrone, and we also went to myself as a player, Rachel Denton and Heavenly. They're amazing, and I was so happy to be able to play with them, and we are playing every other Tuesday. So the next game should be on, I believe, the 23rd of April, and that will be smack dab in the middle of our sub drive, which we'll talk about as well. And Shenanigans went live with its first streaming show. We're not calling it Shenanigans Live, even though it kind of is. And we'll probably be converting those into podcasts as well, since it originally started as a podcast. That's where our OG fans are. Much love. And so we're going to be doing that. And that'll be every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific.
It was ridiculous and horrible.
It was.
What was it?
It was.
You said. What was the line you said? We got 30 minutes into it before we degraded to poop jokes.
We got through half an episode before it all devolved.
Into poop joke. It always devolves to poop joke.
Or evolve. You know, depending on your feeling.
If people liked it, it was evolve.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a really busy Tuesday. It was very, very cool. And I'm very much looking forward to them being part of the lineup of streaming shows that we have. Then, as I said, next Final Rights episode will be smack dab in the middle of our sub drive. Our sub drive is coming up very soon. 6 days to the sub drive starting. April 16th is when we are starting our sub drive. It's the day after U.S. tax season. So we hope you're feeling the love of the community and the generosity in your pants.
Yes.
I know what I said.
Yeah, I'm trying to get content ready, and I'm missing the banter, so I should not.
So this should just say Angela's playful banter.
Angela's playing with herself. That will probably get us a lot of people here that are not.
Nope, that's not the title. That's not the title. But thank you, Samurai and Duskfade Druid and T-Girl. We see your suggestions, and I'm putting them on a list. We will talk about that stuff during the show. Thank you so much. If anybody else has suggestions for questions or anything like that, throw them in chat.
Yeah.
We'll have a nice.
Also, what Kickstarters? What gaming Kickstarters are you excited
Samurai
about? Samurai
already got ahead of us.
I know, that's why I thought about it.
Yeah.
But we were talking about doing about starting to do maybe a weekly Kickstarter review where we pick out a new gaming Kickstarter and talk about those. So if you have some stuff, please put them out there. We'll take a look at them real quick. I do like Tessa's suggestion of the homebrew magic item dressed with pockets. A magical sundress that offers a +3 bonus to AC if you're not wearing armor. It has 3 pockets that lead to extra dimensional spaces. It can store up to 2 cubic feet of items. However, there is one curse with it, the compulsion that when asked about the dress, you must say it has pockets. I like
Thanks,
that. It
has pockets. That is very good. So, as I said, you all in chat know about the sub drive, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here. But in the next day or so, we'll have a schedule? Next couple days?
We have the schedule-ish now. I know that it went out to people. I can at least talk about the DMs and the games that are going to be run.
If you know if those are locked in, go for it.
Drive, right? Yeah,
if
I can
the
do that
DMs and the games are going to be playing.
Let me do what I'm doing right now. This is, you guys are getting us the most raw version of this form you're going to get. We're going to be doing work as we go real quick because we had meetings. We've been up late working on things for 2 days. We have meetings all morning. We have meetings this afternoon. We have meetings tomorrow. It's ridiculous.
Ooh, that's a really good one, Matthew. Matthew, you always come up with these really good, very deep questions that we feel very ill-equipped to talk about on off the cuff. Like, I feel like I need to do full research papers sometimes to feel like I'm doing justice to them. That's me complimenting you. I wasn't complaining. Yes, Samurai, thank you. Swordsfall just wrapped their Kickstarter. We are super excited about that campaign setting. Yeah, it was a World Anvil based Kickstarter. We were following Swordsfall when they were running Twitch and doing their work on that. It's super awesome, and I'm very, very happy that they hit over $100,000 in funding.
Yeah,
so
Nerdsmith is a network. The directors, I believe, we have a meeting coming up with Brandon from Nerdsfall, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. We're gonna talk to him.
Get to meet him and talk to him and get to know him, and we'll probably have him on here. I wish we could have gotten him during the Kickstarter, but he's just so incredibly busy.
Subdra, but yeah.
No, I meant the
Oh, you mean got him on here during
his Kickstarter? Yeah, but he's just so incredibly busy. So, we can approve him to. Hold on a second.
I feel like we should have a pre-approval, like the link. Those who have been bestowed with link privileges.
Well, there is a way to do that. But we do it from different things. Like my understanding is anybody can post anything from World Anvil. Is the way I supposedly have it set up. So anybody can post anything from World Anvil. Anybody can post anything from nerdsmith.org. Don't go to that website right now. It's being fixed. But I said hate having to tell people not to go to our website, but don't go to our website right now. We had an issue. It's being fixed. But yeah, so Kickstarter is just not one of them, but we probably should whitelist it. Anyway, so I put that up there from secondhand, I believe that was. And there's a way to give him permission. I don't remember how to do it. Anyway, we'll figure that out later.
Cool.
Anyway, so yeah, so there's that. Whatever I just said.
You lost it.
Englishing. I lost everything. I'm so scattered right now.
Okay. Well, let's see. Yeah, we're gonna do. Eventually, we're gonna do the a Kickstarter look. What I'd like to do with a Kickstarter segment is to find smaller shows that maybe, or smaller Kickstarters that maybe haven't made their full funding yet, to try to promote them a little bit, see if people want to take a look at them. It is super great though to celebrate the projects that have not only met but exceeded their expectations or their goals. It's very heartwarming to see other members of the community finding their communities, finding their friends. Yeah, I'm very happy for Swordsfall and Lancer. I'm sorry, calling it a Mud and Lasers RPG, that's an amazing way to describe a mech setting. That's really, really cool. I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah. But since you're working now, you can go check out Nerdsmith.
Yay, Nerdsmith.org.
So yay.
All right, so we are a show that talks about RPGs. Stop singing that. We are a show that talks about RPGs and D&D, right? That's what we still are.
Sure.
So let's talk about something like that.
And kitty cats.
So I have a question.
Puppy dogs, like your broken whiskey.
Oh, he's not broken. He's not here right now.
God, he's invisible.
He can't even defend himself right now, and you're just like dragging him. That's not okay. Let it be known here, internet, that Logan drags puppies through the mud verbally. He mocks them until they have no self-esteem.
Let's be very clear about what you're saying.
I said it.
Metaphorically speaking, Logan does not condone.
He verbally and emotionally drags dogs until they feel bad about themselves.
Yeah. Or you could be like my dog, who we take to the dog park in a nice sunny day and finds the one tiny little patch of mud and decides to lay it.
That's not my dog. My dog doesn't like dog parks. All right, so I have a question for you, Logan. There's some discourse going on around Twitter lately. Some of it more let's say some of it's more heated than it should be. Maybe?
Is there any twit course going around Discord?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, there are some high profile people in the D&D community chiming in on this particular topic, and there is, I think, some very heated discussion happening, and I'm not sure it deserves it.
I honestly have no idea what's about to happen here because I have not been on Twitter. It's
going to be real. I'm sorry, I'm building it up too much. It's not that big a deal.
Okay.
The question is, should a DM fudge their dice rolls at any time?
Okay, so that is actually a huge question, and this is not the first time that has gone through the Twitterverse or anything else. As a matter of fact, this is a question that's been argued since I've started.
Vehemence of both opinions. I'm flabbergasted that we all can't just be like, play the game you want to play how you want to play it. If everyone's agreeing, it's okay. Like,
I agree, and I think most of the people that talk about it like that would agree. However, there is some benefit to discussing the merits and the drawbacks to it.
Sure.
Because there's some people that are undecided. There's some people that never thought about it one way or another.
Yeah.
And helping those people, and change their minds to the right way is very important. No, giving them the tools to make an informed decision is good.
Can I say what my opinion is on this?
Please do.
So full disclosure, fans and viewers, I personally have talked about DMing so much, and yet I have a relatively small amount of experience of actually DMing. I have not gotten a lot of hours on my timesheet. Let's say that. I spend a lot of time world building, a lot of time storytelling, and I do a lot of storytelling through play or through writing, but that actual physical logistic of running a game live. I've done a lot of online running, but not a lot of live running. That is a skill that you need to develop, that you develop over
person.
time.
You've done like text-based DMing.
Text-based DMing. I've done a ton of where you have that pause, that ability to adjudicate rules and make decisions given time. You can do it, and I'm pretty darn comfortable running games like that. But I'm still learning as far as DMing live in person with live dice rolling and immediate decisions. As a DM with that little experience, I fudge dice rolls sometimes. And now what I understand is as I get better, I'm going to get better at figuring out how to deal with the dice rolls that aren't optimal. I'm going to figure out how to work with that dice. I don't think fudging dice is a mortal sin. I think that you teach new DMs all the time. Like, shortcuts can be your friend as you're learning. Figure things out. Like, don't be afraid of DMing because there's going to be all of these, you have to sign a morality clause on your DM style as you're just figuring out how to freaking tell a story in a short amount of time. Like, one of my biggest issues is I keep running one-shots and they keep running long. I don't actually get to all the things I wanted to run because I don't have a good grasp of pacing yet. I'm still learning that. And so fudging a dice roll to get the story moving because I didn't time it correctly is potentially a necessary tool that I have in my toolbox. I don't like using it all the time. And I know that there's, that idea of being flexible with your ability to service the narrative and serve the narrative and serve your players. I caught myself before I said it.
This is too important to make jokes about, so go ahead. Yeah,
I acknowledge that there are people that have moral or ethical issues with the idea of fudging dice, and their opinions are valid. But I think sometimes it is just a thing that happens and nobody should be necessarily vilified for it. So I'm on the there's no wrong. I think there's no wrong way to go about this if everybody kind of knows what's happening, or maybe not knows what's happening, but understands that the DM is trying to tell a story with you, and it's not I don't know quite how to express this well at this juncture in my point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Let me see if I can take over. Go
ahead. Jump in.
Let me say that there are two ways there are two types of DMs. There is what's always said. There's those who fudge their dice and those who are wrong. And I don't necessarily prescribe that. I have run games where the dice rolls are the dice rolls. I can guarantee you that the creators of the game fudge dice rolls. I know that for a fact. Well, I know that through their writings and things. But I know that they fudge them very rarely and only in very particular circumstances.
Very strategically.
That I disagree with. They wanted to make things more dramatic. So that means that...
So fudging the dice at the expense of the party rather than in service to
well, and that's
party.
how I originally used to start wording it, is that I would never fudge dice at the expense of the party. It's almost exactly what I would say, except I have. Because there are moments when that drama is important. And usually I roll the die to see if it's close. A lot of times my dice rolls, I don't have a set DC in my mind, because I think it's more of a range. Everything is a spectrum in my mind. How successful were you? Not did you succeed, yes or no. It's how successful were you? Oh, you were mostly successful. Okay, so we can describe that a certain way. So that is, that is what I've done. I fudge rolls. I don't want to say all the time, but I would say, considering I game 20 hours a week, I fudge probably a handful of rolls every week. Why? Well, I mean, there's one example I can show you. In our Countless Heroes game, we had a player that had died a couple of times, a character that had died a couple of times, and been resurrected. And at one point, they got resurrected into a dragonborn. And they had started, before that, they'd started worshiping an ancient god that was the original dragon mother of the world. So all of a sudden, when they became a dragonborn, we were in an immense, beautiful, wonderful, serendipitous situation, because they had just started to become a cleric of this god, and now they look like a dragon. It was perfect. It was an amazing, beautiful moment, and they were there for about a week, and then they got stuck to a sticky dragon and fell down 200 feet and died again. That was my mistake. They should not have died. And I know that a lot of people are screaming now, going, well, they made a mistake, they died, whatever. The situations around it were not covered by the rules, was part of it. It wasn't just that they took a ton of damage. There was this stickiness, there was the getting stuck. There was a lot of other ways I could have handled it. Breaking a leg to the point of not being able to be repaired, or taking, a point of damage and into a constitution or something. There was a lot of other ways that we could have discussed that. The having to have them resurrected again and losing that dragonbornness was a mistake, or fudging the dice roll when they were resurrected and having them become a different type of dragonborn would have been a better way to handle it. The idea that they were perpetually locked in this,
would have been pretty funny if
story.
Callie just kept respawning as a different colored
dragons.
dragonborn. The dragon mother has her claws in you now. You can't stop being a dragon now.
You become, because at that moment, all of a sudden she goes from being just a follower of this ancient god that no one worships anymore to you are my chosen evangelist. You are you are my savior. You're the one that's going to bring back.
How cool! Okay, how cool of an idea would that be? A god doing that, a dragon god that says, if any of my followers ever die and are resurrected, I actively insert myself into that narrative, and I make sure that they are empowered by the idea that they have a second chance. They are always going to be my chosen. Okay, see, the problem with that is if people found out that's what the dragon was doing, they might just jump off cliffs with giant sticky dragons to then become dragonborn. But that is maybe the one downside to that.
But the point is, and what better way to prove yourself to your god than I will die to come back as your warrior? That is kind of a cool thought, although we don't want to push too much into the suicide for religious reasons.
But there is an idea of
dragonborn, yes.
But the idea that fighting in service of that cause, not to fear death in those causes, because if you are struck down in service of that god and they acknowledge you could be brought back in that form.
Yeah, exactly. What a cool concept. And I actually like this so much, we're probably going to start editing it in. But we even, when she died again and was resurrected, they used some special additives that made it more powerful. And I actually rolled things back. Instead of going to the next life, she rolled back to the previous life.
You're welcome, Tessa.
And that meant that she was back in her Dragonborn form, because that was a mistake that I made by not fudging the dice.
Sure, and that's something. Okay, so the notable people. Oh, there you go. Good point with Tessa, that Callie wasn't going to return from that resurrection until that was when she determined that's what was going to happen. That she was done, and getting that chance to get revalidated by her deity just completely reinvigorated Tessa into the character, which is so powerful and so worth it, you know? So the two notable people that I've noticed chiming in on this topic are Matt Colville and Adam Cable. They were the two that were really, like, Matt Colville put a whole video out called what is it called? It's called Fudging Dice Rolls. It's why do we roll dice in the first place? And the basic, and I haven't gotten a chance to watch it because it's like 15 minutes. But one of the comments talked about a point that he made. Well, I'll put it in chat so you guys can watch it later. So one of the points that Matt Colville makes is he fudges dice, as you said, Logan, to fix a mistake. The idea of if you build an encounter and you accidentally make it way too fucking hard and you realize you made it too fucking hard and you have to fix it. Like, in the game, instead of just going, you guys beat them, you're good, fudging the dice to make them more successful can help balance the scale of something you mechanically messed up in the moment. And even in the reverse, fudging the dice rolls because you realize they're going to completely obliterate this because my world building intention was that this was a hard encounter.
This is actually something that I want to do a whole video on for Die Hard. The idea of making encounters that are too hard for the players, the encounter that people are supposed to run from, is a serious problem in D&D campaigns for a lot of people, because most DMs don't make them hard enough. Most DMs don't describe them to be so desperate and horrible that it makes the players want to run, and then they don't show the players the door. There's a whole series of things that you need to do if you're going to do that, and then if they still don't run, you need to stop the game and say, guys, this is not an encounter you can win. Out of character. You guys need to understand that this is not possible. If you continue, I can't be responsible for what happens. And then usually they go back in the game and they kill whatever the hell you were fighting, and you feel like an idiot. But that's a whole other thing.
One way of approaching that, I will not say the name because I don't want to spoil anybody on it. I'm going to get even vaguer. There was a piece of media that came out this year that you are presented with it's a game. There's a game that came out this past year that you are presented with a fight. Technically, you could beat it, but it's like, it would take you hours to get good enough to beat it. You could technically beat it, but under most circumstances, it is designed to beat you. Because the point of the story is you get resurrected and are then going on a quest to defeat the guy that kicked your ass.
Right.
Even if you beat it, there's like a cutscene and you still lose. So it's sort of like sand in your face and then you still lose the encounter. It's a cheap shot. But this idea of you present somebody with a fight they can't win, maybe create a contingency in which you guys, you died or you failed, and then coming up with what that recovery situation.
Yeah,
is
and
for
a
them.
lot of the
And that's one way to do
cliched
it.
ones is, oh, you wake up in a locked cell without all your
cell,
stuff,
yeah.
and it becomes an escape thing. There's other ways to do it as well. We'll talk about those.
Sure.
But this goes back to the original point of why we fudge dice is to fix mistakes, and I think that's good. Matt Colville did something for me that I never thought about. It's strange because I am huge into illusionist magic. I love magic. I have since I was a child, and I still am. But the idea, magicians, if you talk to a magician on a peer level, on a magician level, they're going to tell you I'm a liar. Magicians are liars. They'll tell you that to your face too, even if you're not. They'll tell you they're going to lie to you, and then they're going to lie to you, and they're still going to astound you because you didn't believe that they were actually going to do what they lied to you about. The idea is they are professional liars. I think DMs are the same way, to a degree. We as DMs are professional liars. We sit there and we talk and we create and we manifest all these fantastic things that don't actually exist. By the way, authors are professional liars. It's liar has a negative connotation to it, but that's the idea is we create make-believe.
There's a veil. There's an obfuscation that needs to happen in order for a successful story to be told.
We are telling a story. That's the same thing a magician is doing. They're telling a story. So Matt Colville was the first time I ever thought about using actual magician tools to do this. And one thing he recommends is when you use the deck of many things. He takes his deck of many things, physical cards, and he hands them to the players and says, you shuffle them. He lets them shuffle them. He holds out a box, says, put them in the box. They put him in the box. He closes the lid, sets it on the table. A few minutes later, when they decide what they're going to draw, they take it, they open it, and they take the top card. And that's the card they draw. Now, what has Matt Colville done? Well, he has a special box that has the 3 positive cards he'd like the player to draw in the lid. He didn't give them all the cards. And so when he closes it, the cards that he wants them to have, the ones that are good and not going to kill or destroy the game, are sitting right on top. So if they draw 1, 2, or 3 cards, whatever it is, they've got it. And that to me blew my mind. It was such a smart thing because it's exactly what magic is. I can tell you how a magician does a trick. It does not remove the amazement of what is going on because I know how 90%, like if you watch Penn and Teller's who Fool Us, 90% of the tricks I can figure out while it's happening. I know what's happening. I know the moves they're doing, but the mastery, the skill of it is so good. And that's exactly what DMing is. My wife and I, we watch Matt Mercer, and I'm sitting here and I'm going, Matt has no idea what's going on right now. He's in a moment of scrambling, and he's just got this mischievous grin on his face, looking at the party, and he's just silent, and they're like freaking out. And she's like, no, he's just doing this for dramatic effect. I'm like, no, I know this look. It's the same look I make. I know exactly what Matt is doing at every moment, but he's so good at it. He's just masterful. And it's worth watching just because of the skill. And it doesn't matter if he's lying. And it's funny because I call his fudges too. I'm like, he just fudged that dice. And she's like, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know. I just know when I try to analyze and figure out exactly why. But I would bet money that in those moments, if there's any way to ever actually figure that out, it's like, okay. And why? Because it was a better story. That dice roll was there for dramatic effect. The outcome, and again, it may have changed a little bit depending on the roll, but it probably was never going to fail or was never going to succeed in that moment. But why do we roll the dice? The question is then why bother rolling dice? Because it's that suspension of disbelief. It is the veil that we use to believe that these things are random. And we use the veil enough truly that those moments when we fudge it, it doesn't matter. And that is like what a magician does when they tell you what they're going to do and they show you, and then all of a sudden something different happens. They use that veil enough to say, this is what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden something else happens.
So yeah, I also, beautiful point. I really, really love that idea of storyteller and honestly, you turn Dungeon Master into Storyteller, and there's a different set of expectations there. Hey, and then Logan shuffles in the mic for the next. Yeah, I saw.
I've been shuffling this whole time, so it calms me.
Good job. I was literally going to say, do you want to shuffle some cards, Logan? And you were. So the idea of if you are able to recalibrate in your brain the idea of a game master or a dungeon master being turned into a storyteller, the expectations of that role can shift in what I believe is a very positive way. I think that idea of the story that you are trying to tell and the story that your players are trying to tell might not be 100% in line, but your job is to serve those stories and if people want to play a game in which everything is dice controlled because life is unfair and things just happen and who knows, if that's the tone you want to play, there's no reason why you can't play that way. If you want to run a game that is, and this might just be, everything always comes down to the fucking session zero. If it comes down to this is the kind of game you guys want to play, then you play everyone out in the open. Dice rolls, dice rolls, dice rolls. Nobody gets upset because whatever happens in the dice roll happens in the dice roll.
And here's the thing. If you're a DM and you want to play that way, put your money where your mouth is, roll publicly.
Yeah, sure. And
Tell people
okay.
what the DC is before they roll, and put your dice roll out there. Because if you truly want that suspense, that worry, that scare every single time that dice rolls at a clutch moment, roll in front of your players. Now, me personally, I love doing those rolls sparsely. Like they know. My players
shit got real if Logan.
If we're in a moment where I go, I'm not going to roll on my table. I'm going to roll in the dice roller because I want you to understand that this roll is whatever it is.
This is like Matt Mercer taking a screenshot and posting it on Twitter when he makes a roll. He's like, I want everyone to see this.
It's like, understand this is truth. And that comes from the idea that we understand, everybody at the table understands that some rolls are probably fudged. Because we wouldn't need to do that otherwise. Everybody would feel that way 100% all the time. Or the idea that it could be. If it's rolled behind the screen, there's this idea that it might be fudged. You just barely hang on or whatever. It could have been fudged. That's always kind of there. If you roll out in the open, you say, this is it. It is a hard line. Whatever happens here, it all comes down to this dice roll. And you as a DM take that dice roll public. It is scary.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm seeing 3 different environments now between player and DM. There's the DM, the DM's position as facilitator of the rules. That's everything's out in the open. It's like, listen, rules are rules. We're all experiencing the randomness of this game potentially. That is one way to structure the game. Another way to structure the game is the DM as storyteller, as facilitator of the narrative that you all are trying to tell, whether that's a hero story or a victorious fantasy or just whatever the story. I'm just gonna let you keep going. Do you have more?
No, keep going.
Okay. The idea of the DM, that the magician thing, the DM using the tools of the game and the way of misdirecting with magic principles, the idea of crafting an experience for the players are both collaborators and audience. You are putting on a show for them. You are presenting an experience to them that you're helping to not manufacture, to craft for them. That is one way to do it, where everybody rolling. I feel like, so here's the thing. Logan showing dice. Everybody talking about Logan's dice in the chat. I feel like I am talking to myself right now on the internet.
No, you're fine. We're listening.
Okay. Anyway, it's fine. But so I'm seeing these different, and the last one would be the combination of the two. The using the rolling in front as I lost my words completely and utterly. Anyway, I do really like that idea of that selective use. The everyone rolling out in front, everyone being up front.
Yeah.
That if Matt Colville's the fudging for effect in very limited circumstances, Adam Cable is the fuck no, everybody's rolling dice for a reason. Everybody needs to roll their dice. And you need to see them and you just stick to what's on the dice because that is the social contract of a game in which you roll dice. Now, I think Adam got
the social contract is written in session 0.
Correct.
Every table has a different contract.
And Adam, as far as I've encountered, he's very pro alternate systems. He doesn't hold D&D as this sort of sacred pinnacle of tabletop, which it doesn't necessarily have to be. He did make an interesting point though that I liked. In the conversations about this idea of being upfront with your dice rolling and not lying to your players, because the moment you lie, you break some sort of social contract. He made a point, because he's a big into, like, if that's what the rules are of that game and you don't want to play like that, play a different game. Whatever.
But the rules of that game specifically say make up your own rules. So,
right. But anyway,
session 0. Go ahead.
The point that he made, or an example he gave that I thought was really interesting, and I'm probably going to start incorporating it, is you roll out in front and the story doesn't go the way you were, like, ready for it to go. Somebody tries to convince somebody of something. They're a very charismatic person. The character's very charismatic. You ask them to make a roll and they roll terrible. It's very uncharacteristic for them to have failed that roll. You sometimes say, all right, well, I basically treat it as a passive skill. Yeah, your score, yeah, you would convince this person. Tell me how you convince them. Adam's example was, if that kind of person fails, you bring it to the group and say, that should have worked. You should have convinced them. Why didn't it work? And then you talk about the idea of, okay, does this person have a weird hang-up that kept them from making that leap of being convinced? Or do you say something about something someone in the party's doing that disrupts the attempt at persuasion? That turning the failure, and this is something that I like, we've talked about doing this in combat, turning the failure into a, let's build the scene. Why did this fail? Not just you failed. Let's talk about the why. Let's add nuance to this moment. And I really liked that idea.
So
if you're going to roll,
group, I don't know about, but the idea of asking why did that fail, I like that a lot. I think that's a really cool thing to ask them to describe. Well, why did it fail? What caused that failure this time around? You're a skill monkey with this or that. What could have happened? Is this person just a better at social? Just a better at charisma, better at socialness than you.
Did you try to approach a member of the nobility in which you didn't know there was a faux pas you broke?
Yeah,
you didn't know that was a thing.
You picked your nose in front of the princess. It's whatever. Well, that's a really bad score, but or you didn't pick your nose in front of the orcish princess, and you're supposed to. I'm not saying orcs pick their noses. I just said troll. Anyway,
I was gonna go with a king. I was gonna go with a literary reference, but picking nose is fine.
But yeah, the point is that I like that a lot, asking, and I wish I could remember to do that in the moment. It's something you got to learn and grow. I am not the DM that I want to be. I am not. I want to be a better DM. I work on it all the time. I find roadblocks. I find DMing too much is a hindrance because I get back into all my old habits a lot. So we'll be seeing, hopefully I'll be making some changes here and there as we move on. And you'll be able to go back and watch the first Countless Heroes and see me now and be like, oh, 1,000 hours does change you.
Samurai, I would like to pay you a compliment by way of me not technically answering your questions yet. I now have a sheet of games I need to start looking into. You have
I've got like 7 tabs open right now.
You have a really what's the word for it? A very commendable encyclopedic knowledge of different systems that I just don't have, and I need to. So yeah, no, I understand. But I've got a list now, and I'm actually really excited. The idea of being able to... D&D's just been the thing that I haven't experienced with.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. This is really good. That now I've got some homework I'm excited about. I'm going to go look at some systems because I think it is very important. In the same way that Adam Cable's a big proponent of alternate systems, knowing alternate systems, that take what you want, leave what you don't kind of thing. I am excited to dive into those a little bit more. How about this? I will take all of these questions that you have with all the different systems. I will put them on a future episode of here. We'll circle back to this conversation and some other stuff with that stuff as reference.
Yeah.
And I'll have more information about how those systems work. And by all means, please DM me if you want to tell me what you like about those systems, or if you have good resources for learning them quickly. I would love to learn. So
absolutely
consider me a Jedi apprentice in this way.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to say was you were talking about the different systems and things like that. And I do not fudge dice as much in any other system as I do in D&D. And I think part of the reason why is that D&D is part of one of the reasons why D&D is so popular and successful, besides being one of the first big ones, is that it is very rigid. There is a lot of rules and structure and to build up. And so you don't have anywhere near as much play in a storytelling system like a White Wolf game. There's a lot more room to move, and so you don't need to fudge the dice anywhere near as much because you just don't. It becomes more natural to do these things, and I'm hoping to run a White Wolf game, classic or possibly new, once Countless Heroes is over. So that's going to be a system I'm going to be picking up. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to move into other systems. But yeah, I don't fudge dice as much in those other systems. I still do it a little bit, but it's just it lends itself better to a narrative flow. And I think as time goes on, we're seeing a huge resurgence with White Wolf and Vampire the Masquerade right now. I think we're going to continue to see that happen even more. Like indie games, I'll tell you, when I was playing White Wolf and D&D back in the late 90s, early 2000s, indie games were very indie. They were not popular at all. They were difficult to get into for me, and for a lot of people. I always only wanted to play the big popular ones. And then when 3.0 came out, it was like that was all the game store stocked. You couldn't find any game to save your life. And now all of a sudden we've got things like one-page RPGs coming out, Honey Heist. I've played a bunch of them and they're great. I love them, and more people are playing. And if you didn't see the D&D selfies thing that came out, oh my God, how cool was that? I have never been so excited to be a part of a community. I've never been more proud of my community that I've been a part of for 20 years than I was with D&D selfies coming out. It was that moment of, no, we're not going to take this anymore. We aren't just, we aren't the where's the Cheetos guy anymore. We can still enjoy that. We can understand that that's what people thought about us. But even in the 80s, we weren't those people. There were the most active ones, but even in the 80s, we weren't those people.
Can I give a probably an unpopular opinion regarding that SNL skit?
The fact that there's some truth to it?
One joke got me. One joke, and it's not because it was making fun of a nerd thing. The joke was... See, the beginning of it is exactly what everyone was railing against and that. But the end of it is they're getting ridiculed. They're not even getting ridiculed. They're just out of place in the office situation. And they are, they're rebelling against their boss going, okay, it was really weird that you guys are fighting over credit for this project. I'm going to give it to somebody else. I'm going to give credit to somebody else. And they got back at the boss by saying that they caught him jerking off in the hallway, like in the stairwell of the office building. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's just one of their stories. That's weird. And they talk about that they cast an image spell and they have a photo. And then he's like, give me that. And he ripped it up. And one of the guys went, duplication spell. And they started marching around him, drawing out photographic evidence. And it's just a copy of this photo. That joke got me. Duplication spell made me laugh.
That's kind of funny.
It was getting back at the guy who was ridiculing them for being weird.
Yeah, and that's
not
the thing.
Great person. Like the whole thing was, yes, very shitty in terms of its tone. Really felt like there is a sect of people that watch Game of Thrones that are weirdly critical of quote unquote nerdy people. They don't think they're nerdy because it's on HBO. It's not a nerdy thing. It's a cool thing. They win awards. Like my parents do that sometimes. But I'm not a nerd. I've literally heard my mother say. And I was like, Mom, you have an entire wall of Game of Thrones Funko Pops. I gotta tell you something.
You are a nerd.
But she does have this conceit of, oh well, true nerdy people are like that SNL sketch. Those are the weird, the weird,
which once again comes to the idea of the older generation stuck on things that have happened, and God, I hope that never happens to me, but it already does. How many fucking Pokemon do you need? But you know, the idea, yeah, it's I've always hated that trope, and there are people like, oh, what's that popular geek show that came out? I can't remember the fucking name, but Big Bang Theory. And everyone was like, Big Bang Theory does shit like this all the time. Yes, and I was critical of them too. I was critical of them too. I was critical of every, you know, they sit there and they hired experts to make sure the physics and all the whiteboards were correct and everything was perfect for that show. And they couldn't play D&D correctly. They couldn't play Magic the Gathering correctly. They couldn't play Settlers of Catan correctly. I was so mad. I'm like, you guys, these are the people watching your fucking show. Hire a nerd, go to a game store, play the fucking game. There's no way that you should be this bad at what you're trying to represent when you're talking about these other things being so good. And yes, I was critical. And yes, I sent letters.
I will say this, I'm coming at it from a different angle. Not even criticizing, okay, but you got this aspect of geek culture wrong. My big hang-up about, this is a weird tangent, my big hang-up about Big Bang Theory is the way it crafts the morality and tone of its characters. It's that disrespect. And I'm going to put a couple links in the Twitch chat. I love critical analysis videos. I love them. It's like, I don't read papers about media studies. I watch people who put YouTube essays together. And
was Big Bang Theory ace-phobic? I didn't know that. I haven't watched since season like 5.
I assume that it was belittling characters if they didn't want to bang a girl, So anyway, the point is, the two videos I'm going to put up are from Pop Culture Detective, and he put together 2 videos about toxic masculinity and the adorkable misogyny of Big Bang Theory. Analyzing the morality and ethics of those shows and what they're actually saying, despite this veneer of, oh, they're nerdy underdogs. And it's like, but you need to like listen to the conversations that are happening.
There's a lot of horrible things, and that's part of why I stopped watching, is because it got into that to a degree that I was just not comfortable with anymore.
Right. So those videos are very well constructed, and I'm a big fan of critical analysis videos like that, where it's important to,
you know,
take macro views of media.
Absolutely, because you and I did this the other day. You smacked me in the face a few months ago. We were talking about Firefly, and I was commenting on how Firefly is not around much anymore. We don't see them doing panels, you know, and it's and I was kind of sad because, you know, Brown Coat Forever, and I love that show. But it was a very formative piece of sci-fi for me.
You brought up for me. Yeah, Matthew's right. Sheldon was definitely described as he was uninterested in all the things that the other quote unquote, you know, heteronormative people were.
Yeah,
he didn't seem to be interested in sex, and his girlfriend didn't seem to be interested in sex. And then all of a sudden, they inserted that aspect into their relationship when they could have had a romantic relationship that was not sexual. But then
at least they didn't kill them right after.
Right, but then the popular culture wouldn't necessarily have accepted that. They would have thought it was weird, like, what's wrong? Why haven't they, you know, whatever. Yeah.
No, I agree. What was I talking about?
You were talking about Firefly. We've gotten in an interesting
and you kind of smacked me in the face with some stuff, and I went, oh yeah, you're right. Firefly wasn't that great looking back, you know, because I go back to Buffy and a lot of Whedon stuff, especially. Well, Whedon's a whole different topic.
Sometimes doesn't hold up.
There's some things that don't hold up, and it's funny that we look back going, God, did we ever look at this going? Yeah, and I'm not saying Firefly's like that, but there's some stuff that I go back and I try to watch, and I'm like, ooh, God, why? Whoa, you know, we've come a long way, and thank God for the internet, thank gosh for whatever, you know, because information and being able to talk and communicate and know these things is huge, because we have, and still unfortunately in parts of America, we have places where people don't look beyond their bubble and don't look at how what we do and say affects other people. And I'm not perfect. I've done and said some horrible things. We in a lot of our shows, we make jokes and we go, whoa, we need to cut that. We try to look at it after. We made a joke. Shenanigans last night was probably one of those. We made a joke accidentally in our very first episode of WAND Radio. We were talking about somebody capturing someone, about a dragon knight called, but we were also talking about using, they were cross-dressing or something. I said something about it being a dragon trap. We didn't catch it at the time. Somebody came to us and said, hey, I know you didn't mean it like this in context, but saying dragon trap, talking about...
I think it was me.
No, it was one of Kyle's... Well, it was one of Kyle's friends. It might have been you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I think you came to us also right after we had corrected, but we went, holy crap, of course, absolutely, we need to get rid of that. So we went and we redid the episode, we put it back out. The point is, we're going to make mistakes. Everyone is, but it's how you react to those mistakes and move on. It's part of it, so... Yeah.
But yeah, you and I talked about the idea of Firefly... here, this is sort of what I think. I don't think that there's any reason to feel ashamed that you liked something.
Yeah.
No reason for that. No. There's always that pitfall with fandom that if you completely craft your identity around a fandom and then later in life you go, oh, we're better than that now. It can really crush you.
But it's okay.
And so...
I used to love Dumbo. I don't like Dumbo
Oh my
anymore.
God.
Dumbo, once you go back, there's a lot of things.
Logan,
Dumbo, Gideon's Rainbow. I have a lot of things from my childhood. I go back and look at it and go, what the hell was going on?
Logan, did you know that one of the crows' names was Jim? Did you know that?
Disney. Why?
Okay, I might have made that up. Hold on. Nope. The main one. His name is Jim.
Yep, Jim Crow.
Yep. So, examples of things that you can find beloved, but understand that the cultural content... Okay, so here's the thing. People sometimes say, it was a different time. It was, we should forgive it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying understanding the cultural context of a thing you used to like, or the thing you do like, something that was, again, very formative, very powerful, understanding why it doesn't hold up, what its issues are, and taking the good things you took from it, the powerful emotions, the powerful themes and skills that you developed because you loved a thing, and going forward and making better stuff.
Yeah.
Finding the better, thinking about Firefly, I would love to have thought that more could have morphed into a subgenre of sci-fi that was incredibly popular. I think it did a little. I think you've got a bit of sort of grungier sci-fi that Firefly might have helped propagate.
Absolutely.
Because of it.
Absolutely.
I intrinsically don't see a problem with trying to express Asian cultures, trying to expose people to different aesthetics, showing that a science fiction show can have a different aesthetic than just Star Trek or just Star Wars. That's great. The issues that come up through representation, equity of appropriation, those sort of problems, yeah, that's why that stuff doesn't hold up as great. Or issues of, fridging characters. Not that Firefly really fridged characters. They literally fridged a young woman, but they did not kill said woman. They just put her in a fridge. But yes, this idea of, there you go, Samurai. Mud and lasers could have something to thank Firefly for. It could be part of their DNA of this gritty post. There's so much.
Look back a long way and talk about what has led to what factor and causality and all of that.
Well, causality, but also the intersecting of genres and stories and how the previous generation of creators influence the next generation of creators. That this idea of Firefly has a lot of problems. I personally don't want to build my entire identity around brown coats because I see some of the problems inherent, but there are things about that show I fucking love and don't think are problematic. They're very well done. There's beautiful things in that show. It didn't get the chance to be more, but it also might have just not been in a time that I would have thought it necessarily would have done more with it narratively. But it's one of those what ifs, never know kind of things. but yeah, and I have personal opinions. I won't like throw them out here. I have personal opinions about like a common demographic that often is interested in Firefly that I'm a little uncomfortable with.
Well, now I'm curious.
Fine. The narrative of a Confederate hero being the main character, but then you also have this exoticism of Asian cultures, but are only being represented by American actors. And that idea of this appropriation of an entire subset, an entire geographic region of cultures being sort of mishmashed together and then put through a lens of mostly white characters, but also adding to it that narrative of, in everything of aesthetics, everything except for some of the actual historic realities of Confederacy, everything else is pretty pulled exactly from like Southern Confederacy.
Yeah, the idea that it makes sense, we
don't talk about slaves. Slaves aren't a thing, but everything that's noble in that narrative of Confederacy. And Joss Whedon could have been being like, listen, that is a thing that should be explored. That's a topic that can be explored, but it is so inexorably tied to like Southern Confederacy that I think there's probably a lot of people that like Firefly or that really identify with Firefly that think it's a sort of a Southern Pride, we will rise again vibe. And that is something I'm not very comfortable with.
It's got, but you could also kind of tie that to the rebellion in Star Wars a little bit. That there's a little bit of that mentality to it as well.
It's just not as overt as it is in Firefly. It's Southern cowboys losing a civil war and the Union and there's a lot going on that is very veiled.
I agree. But again, the idea is that they kind of flipped it. The idea that it's more of what if the South had won. And the
if you're going bad by morality, you flip the morality, or I don't know.
I don't
say that. You could say that the idea of the Confederate,
you don't know you don't know what either side was going to be.
The Confederate view of the Union was, you're going to take over and tell us what to do with our lives. We want freedom. We want our rights, our states' rights.
But you're right. They don't say anything about slavery,
states' rights.
But they talk about, like I agree with you 100%. They talk about the Chinese influence in China being, obviously.
We learned Chinese, but they didn't actually do tonal Chinese. They just said the words, and they don't mean the same thing in Chinese if you don't tonally pronounce them correctly. Right. So this idea that they phonetically learned words, only some of them, and they tried. They tried with what they had, and there wasn't much of a movement for respect of own voices storytelling. That if you were going to have Firefly today, I'd say, why didn't the vast majority, they're saying that the culture spread.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Of Chinese origin. Why aren't
we're talking about China having a population 3 to 4 times larger than ours, I think, or something like that.
Is all that
but the culture is all that we got. We didn't get the people, except for background people dancing
once in a while
with the things.
A huge percentage of them probably should have been of Chinese descent.
But I do think that Second and Summer had a good point there that it's an American lens. So if you look at the show without the American lens, that isn't the underdog. They just become the underdog again.
Right. And maybe maybe the idea is, let's try to make it a more universal story without the American lens. You do have, but with the American lens, you have a population of people that highly identify with that underdog narrative. And it doesn't make me comfortable with rising Firefly as this pinnacle of storytelling. Let me tell you how happy I am.
So what you're saying is that our current political climate is because of Firefly.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. No, but I will say that I am so happy, and we've fallen off the RPG path and gone to storytelling, which is fine. I am so happy that I can actively say that there are shows that have come out in the last 5 to 10 years that are so much better. Like they're just as they give me just as good a feeling as Firefly did when I saw it for the first time, but they will hold up. Like, there are things now that are taking such care to tell stories that are inclusive and they want to talk about bigger topics. Like, for me, I feel like The Good Place is a really good example. It wants to tell a larger story, but it's incredibly well crafted, and I give a shit about all the characters, and the comedic timing's amazing, and the world building is so interesting, and there are shows out there now that I have no and I know maybe 20 years from now there's going to be a problem with those because we'll get more woke and something else will be a problem. But that's just called cultural progression.
Yeah,
you get more aware of shit. The more people's voices you allow to be heard, the more perspectives you hear, the more you start polishing the rough edges of how we interact with the world and with each other. We figure out how to have that communication work better, and everyone to feel included, and not marginalized. It's just like there's my political, ethical, moral leanings all spat out into a 20-minute segment.
Something else I'd like to talk to people who don't have as much privilege as I do is about how to talk about those topics in game. And I think we had a question earlier about ableism.
Yes, I wrote it down.
We've got there's a few people online that are very good advocates. One of them is, I can't remember her name. I'll find out in a second. Misty Vander.
Misty Vander. Sure, Misty Vander.
Who is, I would say, sometimes has a view that may seem extreme to some, but is very passionate and has a tendency to get into arguments because of how passionate they are. But almost every time I find myself agreeing with their sentiment and their point, because all they're trying to do is bring an even playing ground. And they've actually started something I believe is called the unconventional con, the Uncon, which is a convention about specifically for people that have hearing disorders and
chronic illnesses,
and sight issues, and talks about accessibility of these things. And I believe it's a lot of online, and I've seen they have meetings and things. They're very, very cool, and it's something I hope that we can help support in the future.
I think. Matthew, again, I'm probably going to want to do some research, or honestly, I'd love to ping the community and ask things about how do you, and this again kind of plays into that idea that D&D has a long way to grow as an RPG system. Most RPGs have a long way to go. And one small but significant enough aspect of the way the game is written, the way the game is designed, is that slightly ableist idea of, and for the sake of educational clarity, ableism is an ism. You've heard isms before. Ableism is coming at something, one aspect of ableism is coming at something from the perspective of a person who has no disability, no chronic illness, nothing in their physicality or their life experience keeps them from being able to engage with the world, whether that's through movement or sensory things like hearing, sight, anything like that. Designing a world, for example, where there's no handicap accessible ramps. Everything is stairs. All that does is that actively gatekeeps the experience of being able to enter buildings from someone who can't do so, can't use stairs. So it breaking that out into other disabilities, other experiences in life that could keep someone from fully engaging with an aspect of life and stuff. I lost my poetic flair for this description. So ableism in games, the example that Matthew put into the chat, was talking about spell descriptions under the impression of you can cast a spell for like 10 people you can see within range. We've had a character in a previous campaign who was blind. That was the character. She was born blind, I believe. And playing a character with a disability does bring you a lot of opportunities for role-playing new life experiences that either reflect your own or don't reflect your own, and so you're trying to learn something new. But D&D is a game in which the system relies very heavily on you being able to see things, to be able to actively, like if you're going to go with the rules as written, you've got to be able to see shit to do anything. Lack of sight is a disabling experience, because the assumption built into the game is that all the players can see normally, quote unquote normally, have standard vision. Some characters have dark vision. Some races have dark vision. So then you have, your humans are walking around a cave unable to function but the, I don't have a good example. I totally forgot right now who has dark vision. But someone
pretty much everyone.
Yeah, someone in the other races. Yeah, halfling humans don't have dark vision. Everybody else does. But this idea of, well, you can't see, so you have to rely on the other people in your party to be able to function, and then you just wait until light shows up to actually be able to do anything. So the question of, if you want to play D&D, but you want to try to get rid of some of the assumptions because you want someone to be able to play a character that experiences the world differently, that's going to require a ton of homebrew. You're going to have to figure out how that system works. I mean, not a ton. Maybe you just...
reskin and reflavoring a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do you do that without... So there's two sides to this coin. The other side is that you don't want to just negate you don't want to let somebody play a blind character just because they want to be blind, and it has no drawbacks either, because you want to represent that issue well. So you have that fine line as a DM. This is why I wasn't going to let anybody do that in my game, because I don't know how to do that well. Where there's a line somewhere where you are no longer representing blind people well.
Well, you have
because you're just giving them everything.
You gave them blind sight. It's like, well,
now that so now they're just blind as an accessory.
So there's this I
have red hair and I'm blind. Those two things are equal. Right.
Yeah, the idea of wearing a disability like a hat that you can then just go, oh, well, it was just for looks, instead of, that was a really bad, unintentional joke. I really didn't mean to say it like that.
You pulled a Heather.
Oh, Matthew, did you not see when GB casts his grayscale spray? It doesn't have any mechanic effect, but he did at least approach that his prismatic spray, at least from his perspective, is just many different shades of white and gray.
Which is a problem, because dogs actually can see color, and I've tried to say that several times. It's just muted colors.
Yeah.
Because now we're not representing dogs very well.
They will be upset.
I think they'll be okay with it.
Yeah. But this idea of addressing this might have been in Zach's game that we played. Zach, if this wasn't in the game, forgive me. There was a one shot that I played at some point with somebody. I don't think it was Zach. Where we had a monk who the character was blind. So a player was playing a blind monk. And they played it pretty straight. Like, this person, he described how he interacted with the world, and he understood, like, I can't see something, so, when we're walking through a space that nobody knows, I've got my hand on the back of someone's shoulder, because I know that they can help me through this particular aspect. Like, I'm asking for help, I'm going to do this. Or it played into the idea of him being a close fighter, a close quarters fighter, where he's like, you put me within 5 feet of somebody. I understand how to listen for someone. I understand how to feel if they're moving in a like a floor on the floorboards. I can hear that. I can feel that. And so he was able to say, my character is blind. They're not gonna suddenly magically be able to see anything, but they have to functionally operate in the world differently. And that might be, with D&D, mechanically not really playing to that as a potential strength. You can't really lean into that as a D&D game. But having perhaps other games that build that into their mechanics so heavily that it doesn't matter if you see the world the same as another person sees the world at all. But you can still function in the game as an adventurer. You could still have that hero fantasy while not discounting the fact that people have different experiences and different abilities and different,
The
sensory
big problem
experiences.
is that the community. I think the community at large, the community being any one of the disabled, communities. I don't know that they all agree on how to represent well.
Oh, and that's the thing, is there is
so
no
you always are
model,
going to.
there is no monolithic
There's no
opinion.
model to figure it out, because,
I mean,
and that's why I've had to err on the side of just not doing it, because I have a mute character in one of my games. I'm sure I did a very poor job. We had Red in the game,
Yeah.
and she's mute. I love the idea of mute characters because I love trying to communicate differently. I personally want to learn sign language. It's something that's on my list of many, many things I want to do. Matter of fact, our bonus content talks about that. Because I love the idea of being able to communicate with somebody who so rarely runs into people that can communicate with them randomly. And being able to be that person that and we saw a bunch of people at WonderCon. They would bring interpreters in and things, and
WonderCon did a great job with that.
WonderCon did an amazing job.
They have their whole wall of interpreters that it actually reminded me. This is a little off topic. It actually reminded me a lot of what I've heard. My husband works in law. Talked to a lawyer who works down in Miami, and someone was an interpreter, and it was the exact same setup. You sit on a bench and you wait till someone needs an interpreter for something, and then they send you to the room you need to be in.
Yeah.
There wasn't necessarily sign language. It was just different languages. A lot of it was just Spanish language interpreters waiting on a bench to get brought to a room because they need people to be able to facilitate communication. But WonderCon did a great job with that. Can you throw some music on by any chance?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And I remember we just talked about not asking on stream, but I thought
that was fine. That was a nice way of asking.
I was playful when I did that. You didn't see me grinning like, this is a terrible thing to do. I'd never consider you my gopher. I would not.
No, I didn't. I was really stressed because it was a brand new show. I was trying to get everything right. Yeah. Although that is what that show is. They're devils wearing Prada.
Oh my God, we are. Whatever the fantasy version of Prada is.
So anyway, I think that's a much long. We can have 7 shows on this topic. What I'd like to do is find a guest that can come in and talk a little bit more authoritatively on this and talk to them about it. I think that would be an amazing show to do. So if you know of someone that we would love to know who we should
talk about accessibility and ableism.
Accessibility, and maybe even specifically in a particular area, Yeah.
We could.
Somebody that has firsthand experience. Misty Vander is absolutely on the list. Yeah. I will. I think I've already tried, but I will continue to try, and we'll figure that out. I don't know that Misty does a lot of video stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Because there was something that just occurred to me that in terms of representation, there were a couple things. Somebody made a comment that they don't see a lot of overweight characters, and I had a thought that, the rigors of adventuring life might just dictate that you're probably gonna get a little svelte doing that.
Probably,
but
sure.
In the world, there is
idea, and I do this in my games too, and I'm horrible at it because I'm realizing that I was the part of the problem, so I changed very dramatically about a year or two ago. In my games, most of the most evil people were overweight.
Oh no!
And I didn't realize I was doing it. And I was like, "Oh God, I do that. That's horrible."
In from Dune.
And all of the good characters were gorgeous, beautiful hunks of men, And I'm sure that says something about me.
Beauty standards can very influence people. That's that whole thing about more attractive people are psychologically more seen as more authoritative and reliable. But what I was going to say,
dad bod culture came out, and that was very exciting for somebody, who might get to dad bod eventually. And, strongman competitions, true strength versus muscular toning, is always
Matthew pointed out that sumo wrestlers work out constantly are extremely strong. They have trained in a very certain kind of strength, and you can absolutely have a character that's the kind of strength they train in. You ever go look at
Uncle Ira from
Oh, Uncle Iroh. I mean, he got buff as shit.
He did, but he was still always kind of had that. It was never six pack. It was still that layer of fat, which strongmen use to kind of like it kind of looks like a support belt. And that's why the strongman competitions, that's why they have that, is because it's how they work out. But that is exactly what type of person I would like to have. But yeah, so I started to make sure that like a few of my hero characters and my nice characters were overweight as well. And then to see Matt Mercer talk about Pumat Sol and a main character inside of a main NPC inside of a game being a little overweight and stuff, it was very exciting.
Okay, so
I'm talk about, because me, as somebody who wants to cosplay, I have like 3 options, and then they're all horrible. I've got the Penguin, I've got the Blob. Not doing either of those, and I've got Kingpin. Okay, that's pretty much my options if you don't go into strange anime. Having now Pumat Sol, a D&D character in a popular show, that is definitely what my first cosplay is going to be.
The ghost from Christmas Present from Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's a good one. I could do that.
The man, know me better, man.
That's a very obscure one.
Oh, it would be good. Do I have your permission, Logan, not that I think you really care, to post a picture that technically has women in slightly revealing clothing? They're in athletic wear. It's not actually a thing.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay, so I'm going to post a picture on chat that is comparing Olympic athlete physiology. It's
I've seen this. It's great.
Yeah, this picture that shows all the different Olympic athlete events and the kind of physicality that they have. This idea that
this is a great one to look at and go, this is my character's body type, because there are so many different amazing types, and you can look at the events and go, okay, I know I want to do that kind of rigorousness with my character. This is what my character does. And you can be like, that's what that person would look like. That's awesome.
Person spends their entire life crafting themselves in skill and physicality to complete a task in a certain way. And so that's a I just had this, I don't know if this was an epiphany I just had, but we're having a really good time today that I think Discover RPG as a show, we don't necessarily have to limit ourselves to, okay, what D&D commentary are we going to make today? Think about how all the different places we get inspiration for our games. Talking about storytelling and different topics with the hope that it will help craft your ideas for gaming. There's broader conversations to be had on this show that is not necessarily how to D&D.
I agree.
So that's just like I said, a small epiphany that I just had.
That means no more prep for shows, right?
No, that's not what that means.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I was really excited there for a second.
Yeah, that's a good point. And less emphasis on RPG and more emphasis on Discover as the concept.
Yeah, that's a good one. So something I wanted to put out there when we're going back to our ableist discussions and things was this: we don't just have to talk about the real world. There's we talked about this earlier with Firefly and things. There's metaphorical discussions when you think about it wasn't that show. What was the show we're talking about? Big Bang Theory. You got to listen to what they're actually saying, what's actually being said in a moment. So I'm having a discussion with a player right now. The idea they might be becoming a werewolf soon, a cursed werewolf, the type that doesn't they can't control their change during certain times of the month, which is a very I think about that phrasing and things. I wonder
why aren't there more female werewolves?
Yeah, I don't. Anyway. I'm worried that that's maybe where that came from, and like it'd be a horrible thing that the mythology to come from the idea of that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Lunar cycle and all. It's
I'm gonna shave my legs when I feel like it. World mythos. You can't turn me into a monster because of it.
So my point is, in previous games, when I had a werewolf character that was cursed, they were able to discover a tea that they could drink during that time that would stop them from transforming and allow them to be a normal person. And again, that is a metaphorical game system, but it still is along the same lines, and it's still sending the same message. You get to be a werewolf, you get all the benefits, but you don't have to deal with any of the drawbacks because of this magic potion.
So it just becomes, again, wearing an aesthetic
Yeah.
or getting a mechanical benefit with none of the drawbacks.
Right. And that's something that I'm really questioning on if I want to have happen again, to create this magical potion just to fix this drawback, especially when it's voluntarily taken.
Yes, here's what we do. I think that plays into the assessment, that session 0 assessment. We have so much shit you got to go over when you're getting to know people. But
we're going to do the comprehensive guide to session 0, and it's going to be like 50 fucking pages.
But the idea of when something happens to your character in game, roll with it. I'm not interested. If you want to pitch ideas to me, that's fine, but I'm under no compulsion to fix a thing that happens to your character to make it just an aesthetic for you, unless there is more reasoning. Like if it suddenly became a line for you and you understood, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Yeah, things matter, and we're not necessarily. We're gonna instead of making you feel debilitated, I'm gonna put a spotlight on you. Let's talk about what this means for your character. Use it and make that a moment to experience your character more. So
but also, I as a DM am going to promise you that I'm never going to force you into that. That for me, I'm never going to be that like, idea. You're going to become permanently blind forever without me knowing that you're okay with that.
But the idea of just either discussing beforehand or giving them a choice in game, making sure you understand this is really a thing that's going to happen. There's no quick fix. There's no magic fix for this. Are you prepared to make that sort of narrative jump? Are you prepared to make that sort of sacrifice for your character?
And believe it or not, although I don't know why you wouldn't, I have these conversations with people in DMs before things happen in game a lot. When I'm sitting here typing away, often I am typing to one of the players going, I see this happening in the next few minutes. I need to know you're okay with it. One of the big ones, resurrection. There's certain races that people do not want to come back as resurrection.
I was about to say, I've never gotten to have this conversation with Logan.
Reincarnate.
Not to humble brag. I've never died in campaign before.
Well, not just about dying, but there's been other things when I've come to you about some stuff with dub and stuff just to make sure. Sure. Usually it may not be in the moment, but it happens. I do have conversations that you may not understand really what you're doing, what I'm doing.
You might be doing something that
sometimes I might just be checking to see, is this okay? Would this be okay? Or sometimes you and other people have given me the okay without even me knowing and be like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? I'm like, okay, well, I know you're okay with that now. But with reincarnate, some people don't want to come back as certain races. So the first thing I do is I say, here's the list, pick 5 races that you don't want to come back as. And I will remove them from the list. I'll replace them with the 5 races from our world. That's the first thing I do. Second thing I do is I roll 3 times. I give them a choice. I said, or I let them roll 3 times. I'm like, you get to choose, or I let them do re-rolls. Like, oh no, I don't want that one next. I don't want that one next. And you have to take whatever the third option is. And even at that point, they then can have the opportunity not to come back. If somebody wants to come back and is still extremely devastated with all those choices, I have made minor adjustments in the past, but that's all fudging. That's all fudging the dice rolls. But it's because I don't want somebody to play a character they're miserable with, because I've had DMs force me to play characters that I was miserable with, and it's not okay.
Because there are mechanical implications to swapping races. There are emotional implications to swapping races. You have somebody who's built. There are characters. If someone has a high level of emotional bleed into their character, and they've constructed their character's entire experience on pride or community involvement with their group, and it could go a couple ways if you suddenly uproot them from that. It could be very it can vary from, oh wow, that's a great storytelling potential for me to let my character suffer, because some people love making their characters suffer, or that's so upsetting to me. I spent so much time, and this character has spent their entire life feeling connected to this, and to lose that could be devastating, and say, I don't want to play a character that is that emotionally broken from that event happening. So it's just being mindful of it.
Yeah.
And so Samurai makes a good point. The difference between escapism and exploration. Every player is different. Whether they want to play something that allows them to completely completely explore or you used exploration as a different thing, but completely escape from what they normally experience. They want to be something completely different, and that level of escapism in the game. They want a fantasy. They want a hero. They want a power fantasy. They want a hero fantasy. They want any sort of thing that is different from what they experience, because this is their safe place to just do something else, escape from what they're experiencing day to day. As opposed to exploration, which is, I want a safe place to explore things about me, to explore things about my life, or about, things I don't know about that I want to experience in a safe circumstance. We've talked before about the idea of, I've had games where I'm not a terribly religious person, but I've played clerics. Playing a cleric for a huge chunk of time was an incredibly powerful and emotionally rewarding experience for me. It has not changed anything about me as in my real world experiences, my life, like what I do, but the idea of being able to delve really deep into something that I had some issues with in my real life, but being like, no, I'm fully committed to finding out what a person like this is like. And so and some people want to say, I want myself in this. I want to see myself in something about my character.
And I think part of it comes down to the idea is, if you're in it for the escapism, don't escape into someone else's reality. Don't try to escape into this using escapism to escape your life, but going into, I want to use blindness as an aesthetic or something like that. You want to make sure I just want something
different from me because it's different from me, rather than I want to delve into that experience.
Right. And I think that with the certain things, as for us, because we are to an audience, I think it's important that we make a choice that we only use those things for exploring. That we only use those things
sincerity. We want to use sincerity. We don't,
and some respect to them.
We're not just slapping a coat of representation paint onto what we're doing. Yeah. But there are situations where there's a difference, but there is that. Okay, so this is a bigger conversation than I was expecting. When you're dealing with own voices experiences, that phrase meaning somebody telling their own story and experiences, it is not necessarily our job to put on a hat and say, I'm going to tell a story about a trans character because I want to delve into the trans experience. That is not the same. There are certain circumstances where I think exploring might be useful, and I think there are sometimes where exploring might be exploitative.
Sure. I'm not saying that we should always explore. I'm just saying that in the end, it's the escapism angle. I guess I was interpreting it a little bit different. I think you could do that. It could be escapism for you, but in the end, you still need to be respectful to any underrepresented group that you grab onto.
None of us are perfect. None of us are without fault or without problematic.
I am a really horrible person.
But this is a conversation slightly skewed towards if you are streaming or publicly showing your games. The idea of if you have a space, right? But listen, in certain small spaces, you can play a character. You can explore a little bit. You might make mistakes, but it's a slightly safer space to be able to have that experience.
You want to play Daredevil? Go play Daredevil. It's
right. But one thing that
my understanding is that the Daredevil, the television show that's been on or was on or whatever, actually evidently did a good job. I haven't watched it, but of the representation of. I don't know. Did it not? I thought I heard somebody say that. Okay. I'd be curious.
It did interesting things, but I don't know. And this is, again, the idea that there's no monolith opinion from the blind community. There's no monolithic opinion from the deaf community. I was going to make a point earlier that having representation in your world, sometimes you can lean into the nuance that exists in our world. That I was thinking about having a character, or maybe having a family in which a number of the people in the family were deaf. one person in the family chose to have some sort of magical augmentation so that they could hear better. Some of them didn't. It's that idea of cochlear implants. The idea that in the deaf community there are differing opinions about whether or not that is do we augment ourselves to reach some sort of socially acceptable, do we call this the bare minimum? Like, do you just want to be able to hear because the world is not built 100%? The world's not built for the deaf experience sometimes.
Yeah.
Versus, do you say, no, this is our culture. We've had a community for do you want to just delete languages and modes of expression that we've created as a community by just, go hang out with the quote unquote normies? So it's an issue of identity and what they want. So I like this idea of maybe having NPCs in your game, or having a PC that their family, like, you don't necessarily need to have a deaf character. You could if you wanted, I guess, but you could have their family experience have that. You have some members of your family who are deaf, and somebody in the family decided to augment themselves with a cochlear magic item, some people didn't. I mean, there's ways of exploring the actual real world social nuances.
We did this in and it didn't even click to me at the time, but we did this in Countless Heroes. We had a character that was missing an eye, and they got a magical gem and popped it in there, and ta-da, they can see out of both eyes now. It didn't even occur to me at the time that not having depth perception, what that was like. I didn't explore that at all. We talked about it, we joked about it, which is something we did not handle very well. And I'm not saying that we won't make that same mistake again. We joke about things that probably shouldn't be joked about a lot. It's, the unexpected is humor, and sometimes humor is a tool that we use to get through things. But sometimes it's just humor. And, we've joked about it. We've joked about a lot of things, and we have a lot of different people that have a lot of different things going on in their lives, and we have a lot of lines and veils that we don't talk about. We draw the line, and we sort of avoid certain discussions or certain jokes and things. We're not 100% good at it. I have crossed over many players' lines on accident. All I can do is apologize and keep working on it, and I have that list. I got that. I keep learning and reading and studying it. We did an updated list about halfway through the campaign. It's just
because people discover things. People realize things about their experience. Like, I didn't know that was a problem. I'd like to update my list.
We've had that. I've had that in Countless Heroes that happened with a player that discovered something that was a hard line for them, and then we had a audience member come to me and say that there was something that there was a serious issue for them.
Or just different circumstances.
Things. But it was very interesting, and it was a moment of very interesting experience for me to go. I saw both points. I understood exactly what was going on, and I was able to go, you know what? We can fix this. Let's fix it. Let's correct it. And that's what I hope people would do. If you come at me respectful, and you come at me and say, look, this thing is bothering me. This thing is difficult. I want to change it, no matter who you are. It can be an audience member, it can be anything. If you come at me like a dick and yell at me and scream and say I'm being horrible, then I'm not gonna care. Although I'll come to Angela and she'll probably talk me down and get me to actually look at it objectively.
No, have a substantial conversation and dialogue.
But in general, usually, if somebody's respectful, I absolutely want to work on changing it. I want to become a better person. A year ago, I had a lot of very poor language when we started this company, and poor ideas about how I wanted to run things. Angela and Heather and Tessa and Kyle and all of the amazing people that work with us, they made me understand that I had a lot of privilege, and that there was a bigger world out there, and the people we've met since then. And the stories that we've been told have just really made me very thankful for all of that. So, sorry, didn't mean to go that.
No, it's fine.
Weird.
It's okay. Especially the difference between an improvisational. It makes me think of, you write a novel, you do the best you can. I have book ideas that are just, they did not hold up in terms of the implications. When you start deciding you want different life experiences in characters, and then you put a supernatural slant on a lot of them, there are some implications of what you're saying about the real world experiences of certain people that you don't want to publish that. That's not a thing you want to publish. So, realizing later in life that, things I've written are not going to be publishable. That's not a story I want to tell. That's not a takeaway I want someone to have from a story that I tell. When you're writing something or you're publishing something with preparation, you do your best. You try to you try to be as thorough as you can. When you're in an improvised situation like D&D or with just role playing in general, the slope's a little slipperier. It's hard sometimes to keep your subconscious or just things you've learned along the way from bubbling up and you probably apologize a lot more with improvisation than you do with publishing if you're looking to foster a situation where people feel safe.
Or jokingly say things like, well, that's it, everyone just unsubscribed. Again, using humor to kind of diffuse, but I apologize.
Well, according to Autumn, all the dogs subscribed.
Oh, the dogs are gone. I know, yeah. It's horrible. I thought, was that Autumn or Matthew? I don't know. Anyway, so that is a problem for me. I prescribe to the Robin Williams school of comedy. You throw everything out there. You say outrageous things. The funny stuff will stick. The rest of it will be forgotten. And as long as you tailor and start moving towards the majority of it being hilarious, the really bad jokes you make will just be forgotten and nobody will really remember them. It has worked very well for me. The problem is, and if you've ever listened to Robin Williams actually live, not on an edited live, sometimes they're a little beyond where they should be. And I have said some things during WAND radio especially, where I'm completely unfiltered. Now I'm kind of worried about shenanigans a little bit because I feel I'm in that mode of just being completely unfiltered, that I'm going to make jokes that are bad. And I will stop. I'll apologize. I'll be like, that was bad. I did that last night. There was a joke that went too far. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. That one was too far. And I'll say that. And it's not necessarily okay that I did it, or that my mind even went there. I don't want my mind to go there all the time, but it does sometimes. And some people are going to find it hilarious, and some people are going to be very offended. And I just hope that in the end, people can forgive the misstep.
Yeah, we're all just people. We're all just working. So that was good talk. I liked that. We have 10 minutes left. What do we want to talk about for 10 minutes? We
should probably talk about our sponsors and our subdrive.
Heck yeah.
Because the subdrive starts next week.
Money, 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 money.
So let's talk about our sponsors real quick. We're going to talk about...
We're not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that one. That one might be...
Let's talk about World Anvil real quick. Please stick around. This is all very important information. World Anvil is the most robust world building and campaign management software that exists on the internet today. What?
Samurai, welcome to Cash
Corner.
It's just Cash Corner.
Cash
Corner.
No the. Damn.
Did Samurai, not me. I was going with what he wrote.
Welcome to Cash Corner. Welcome to the Cash. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so it is the most robust world building and campaign management software that exists on the internet today. You should absolutely. I'm trying to be very careful here.
I can do it. Do you want me to do it? I can do it better.
Handle this one because we had a meeting with them this morning, and I'm not allowed to say anything. So please, Angela, you handle this one.
So as Logan said, he's tried all the world management softwares, and World Anvil has just been an incredible partner with us here at Nerdsmith and here at Discover RPG. We did just have a meeting with Janet and Demetrius this morning, and it was wonderful. We hadn't gotten in touch with them since after WonderCon. It was really cool to check in with them after we had our big meetup that they sponsored so graciously. And we are we're just really excited about everything that we will continue to be working with them this year and beyond. Let's see. But anyway, World Anvil is absolutely amazing. It's free to use, absolutely free to use. The base product. It's really awesome. Just right out of the box is amazing. Really cool way of tracking information that you have as a storyteller, as we say, an RPG manager, like running as a game master or a dungeon master, tracking your campaign information, planning written things like novels. If you are a storyteller or an author, World Anvil can be a very powerful and inspiring tool for you. And not only that, their community is really amazing. You're looking for a space to just get inspired and to collaborate and work with other people. The World Anvil community, their Discord server, all the people that are involved are just super cool and all just devoted to the art of crafting story and making worlds. I am daily impressed with the kind of community that they fostered. And recently, we say this number a lot, recently they broke an amazing milestone of 200,000 active users on their site. And that is so cool. And I am absolutely overjoyed for them. And I can't say enough good things about World Anvil, honestly. They've been such cool partners to
They've
work
been with us since pretty much the beginning. They were our first sponsor, their family. And we absolutely love them. They're just really incredible.
You should blush, Samurai. You guys are awesome.
You guys are very cool.
So yeah, that World Anvil is amazing, and so you can check them out at worldanvil.com. We will Subdrive's going to take over our brains a little bit, but we're going to try our best to be
We'll talk about it in a second. So let's talk about Die Hard Dice, dieharddice.com. You can go there and use the coupon code DRPG for 15% off your order. That coupon code works once for each person. So you can go take a look at all the amazing dice over there. One thing that I always like to talk about with Die Hard Dice is that all of their designs, all of their metal designs, they're not just purchased remakes. They make those dice. They design them. They 3D print them. They send them off to the manufacturer. More often than not, their designs are then kind of distributed and sold and recreated illegally by other companies, and it's very
not illegally, just unfortunately.
No, it's actually with some of them it's illegal.
Oh, okay.
There are some that he owns the trademark rights to the designs. What 3D design dice you can actually for trademarks, like the Mythica. Their Mythica line, I believe they own the complete rights to. So if anybody ever makes a die that looks like the Mythica, they'll be talking to their lawyers, I would guess, but I don't know that for sure. My point is that yes, you can absolutely. The colorways and some of the other ones, there's some ways you can't quite get. But yeah, for that one specifically, I believe they do actually own and paid for the international copyright or trademark or whatever it is, copyright, I think, on the actual design of the dice, because or patent, maybe it's a patent because it's a design. But there are ways to protect it, and they have. And now the polymers are starting to come up with their new polymers. It's all their own designs. They don't just rebuy other designs and resell them. They want to make their own designs. That's what we love about Die Hard Dice, because they really want to make they're passionate. They want to make an amazing product, and they care about the community more than really any other game company, any other physical dice or product company I've ever talked to. I've talked to a lot of them. When we met Todd, that was it. His passion won me over. I was very excited about what they're doing. And I'm very excited about what they're doing in the future. I know they're working with us on some special projects. I know they're working with another major company. They put that on their Facebook. They're working with Level Up Dice on some sort of secret project. I have no idea what it is. Don't ask. But I just know that I've met the Level Up Dice people too. They are very nice. And we're very, very proud to be working with them. So go to dieharddice.com, use the coupon code DRPG, all just 4 little letters, all caps, and you will get 15% off your order. We will not be doing a giveaway with DRPG we will be. We've got one of the codes. They gave us a bunch of extra codes to give away during our subdrive. Also, World Anvil is giving us a bunch of codes to give away during our subdrive. So during our subdrive, during our special events, we're going to have a ton of giveaways during the events also. So the subdrive, it's a support drive for our Nerdsmith subscriptions, not here on Twitch. So we're going to be pushing over that'll be September here on Twitch. But over there on this on the Nerdsmith subscription drive, we'll have links. We'll have everything coming up. So the big things are there's 4 levels you can subscribe to, and each level gives you a little bit more cool stuff. And some of that cool stuff includes a unique 2019 subscriber pin, dice by Die Hard Dice. a D6. Let's see what else. There's the new mug. We've got a new mug we're hoping to have images of pretty soon coming out. And then we're doing Nerdsmith at the top tier, a Nerdsmith cookbook that you can get, which will have, it looks like an old D&D module, and it's got annotations by Pip from Countless Heroes, who's our resident editor-in-chef. That's the line. And
I'm so happy.
And each one is themed for all the different shows on the network. So there is a lot of very cool things that we'll have available. Those are all exclusive for the drive. You won't be able to get them after, except maybe if we have an overrun on the cookbooks, we might sell the last few of those off or give them just some future subscribers. But during the sub drive, we'll have we'll kind of have that hard line. Our
store is so close to being
almost being started. Our goal is 250 subscribers through our Nerdsmith subscriptions, and if we hit that, I will not be cutting my hair for 6 months. And the epicness that is the poofiness and ridiculousness of my gigantic curly hair will become known to all the world. And every night that I stream, I'm adding this because people asked for it. If we hit 250, every night of the stream, I will let Tessa do my hair up however she wants. So for 6 months,
Logan,
she will get to do that.
Can I make a social media post with that promise on it?
I've
already got design ideas.
And a matter of fact, I have pictures that you can show off of what my hair looks like longer and not put up. So I'm sure that we can get those. So that is what's going on there. So please join us for that. We have a special guest coming on the 24th. That's our second of the 2 sub drive things. And we are going to have, I think we can talk. I think we can say we're locked in, right? We can say we're going to have Cucumber, Chunk, and Ryan from Perception Studios Perception Check on our show, and we will be having an entire Muppet Puppet themed episode. That is coming on the 24th. We are currently working on a special guest for next week. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but we will figure out some special episode for then, one way or another. But for the following week, the 24th, you're not going to want to miss that episode. You are not going to want to miss it. It's going to be the best one we've done ever, and we're probably going to just shut the show down after that because there's going to be no reason to keep going. But yeah, so that's that. It's very, very cool. They are amazing. If you've never watched Perception Check, go on to Twitch, go to Perception Studio, and watch specifically Perception Check, where Ryan is DMing and Cucumber and Chunk and a special guest are there every week. And Willow's the third puppet that's not always there; it comes in and out. But Chunk and Cucumber are there, and hashtag Cucumber for president.
I put a picture of Cucumber and Chunk in the chat. They're so cute and awful.
They are cute and awful. Yes. I would honestly say that every person who enjoys any sort of D&D streaming, if they like to laugh and they like goofiness, they need to go watch the most recent Perception Check from last week, right before WonderCon. Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, right before WonderCon, whatever it was. The most recent Perception Check. Just watch the first 30 minutes of it. You will be hooked. You will just be flabbergasted. They do songs. They are professional. The people that behind the scenes, although you're not supposed to talk about it, I'm sure, work for Disney. Have worked for Disney. They do professional stuff with. At Disneyland, not just the normal cast members, but they actually do the shows and things. They are incredible people. They do the parades. They're just fabulous, and we're going to have an entire Muppet themed episode that I'm working very hard to get content together for.
If you have good topics,
good puppet or Muppet themed D&D questions, let us know.
We've already got.
Yes, we already have. We already have the homebrew that if it popped into your head, you know exactly which homebrew we're talking about. We will be talking about that homebrew. That will be the highlight of it. And we have some very, what is the AC of a trash can? Trash can armor would be a really good one. I like that. We will absolutely be asking a lot of very pointed questions. So
I'll tell you something later. Anyway, we are at 5:01 or 2:01.
No, we're not. We're 2:01.
But that is the time. We're turning back into a pumpkin. Okay, guys.
You know what? With our president, let's never use that again. I'm tired of that one. We don't need to be orange pumpkin-y.
Cinderella. Andy turns into a
Yeah,
pumpkin.
I know. You know what? Cinderella probably wasn't that good either. Let's not go back and watch that one.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was honestly a slightly experimental episode. We just sort of saw what happened. We hope you guys had a good time, and that, as I have now dubbed our new goal here, is to inspire with perhaps random conversations, not necessarily directly related to mechanical RPG rules. But we hope you guys had a great time. We will see you all next. Sarah, we did roll the dice today on this show. So we will see you all next week on Discover RPG, when we will be in the middle of our subdrive. Fun things abound for the next 2 weeks. You all have a beautiful rest of your day, and please, as always, do me a favor and be good to each other. Bye.
Bye.